Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. This bulletin is coming to you live from our studios here at Kokomlemle in Accra on digital address GA0993341 on Joy 99.7 FM. It's also live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, affiliates across the country on ABN Radio in London and around the world at myjoyonline.com. The news is brought to you by UMB Bank, UMB Speed Up, DigiBank. Let's go. Coming up, Agriculture Minister declares food prices have hit record low, a feat he attributes to the MPP government's Planting for Food and Jobs program.
Anybody who feigns ignorance is just deceiving themselves, because the evidence is very clear that food prices have come down substantially, and I would say that historically food has never been so cheap.
We'll hear more from him, and with less than 24 hours to Farmers' Day, the General Agricultural Workers Union is calling for a review of the celebration.
That we need a comprehensive review of the way we celebrate the Farmers' Day. You know, the annual ritual, they say that it does not even inure to the benefit of the farmers.
And as opposition NDC Council of Elders meet aggrieved flag bearer hopefuls who petitioned them over exorbitant filing fees, the party has been justifying its decision to reduce the fee from 400,000 to 300,000 cedis. Also in this package, Dagbon Radiant rise to President Akufo-Addo rejecting claims by Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II that he failed to show up for mediation talks.
We've got sports coming up later, and Kumasi Asante Kotoko, they now know their opponents for the Confederations Cup assignments, but the absence of competitive football in the country is a major concern. We hear from head coach Sike Akono, who talks to us in 20.
And later, new chairman of the National Media Commission dismisses claims by some old members that his nomination by the president will affect the commission's objectivity.
He makes reference to a text message he received from immediate past NMC chairman. It reads,
"I wish you would see my viewpoint and not set the NMC on the slippery slope, and therefore, while I wish you well, I must caution the members not against you, but against the idea you personify."
We've got details, do stay. I am Benes Abubeidu Lansa. Thanks for joining me. Minister for Food and Agriculture, Dr. Efrie Akoto, says prices of foodstuff in the urban areas has hit a record low. This he attributes to what he calls the huge success of the government's Planting for Food and Jobs initiative. Under the initiative, government claims it has distributed farm inputs and given funding to hundreds of Ghanaian farmers in a bid to boost agriculture. With less than 24 hours to Farmers' Day, the minister is assuring that prices will continue to dip.
Food prices in the urban areas have never been so cheap. The Planting for Food and Jobs has touched every one of the 29 million people in Ghana. Anybody who feigns ignorance is just deceiving themselves, because the evidence is very clear that food prices have come down substantially, and I would say that historically food has never been so cheap and plentiful. And this is only the beginning. I mean, next year in 2020, when we have all these machinery and the seeds and everything, doing everything right, the quantities will be impossible. But by then, of course, we will have put in the capacity to process the food. We will have had enough storage space and all those things, so we'll be able to manage the surpluses better.
But is that really the case? We've been speaking to some traders at the Malata market here in Accra. Listen.
Niamani dia ekrasi nebu nankran dia niamen bua just a lor fe no dos njomo de niamen dru hani bua eti
by ekrasi dia niaman ni bua aba fom
ekrasi dia so lor fe ni count ni bua no wo fom na kwansofo no kofi omo kofa fiti village all the dru enkran ha ni bua eti
aduane ne bua aba fom ha ya de bakula ne to ne ma ni bi be fa ne 3 cedi 4 cedi omo filikula yen fesika ma enso ya de ba ne abeboka bush nsi ababa lolly febe blenti ne sa ma ye hu de ye hokula me bla ebi hokula se de oto no bush wa nya ne sa ba wo de abedu ha e plo no e wo sa wo te so ma moto wo te so nso ana nso aboka bebi
mba for me koso
koso so like what level?
Oh, first in the ne ya ba yin na for si ade koso ra na e ko.
You heard some traders at the Malata market here in Accra. Varied responses. The first speaker said it's less expensive in rural areas, but when it's transported to Accra, the prices shoot up because of transport fares. Well, another said she has to reduce the prices because the food may go waste and she doesn't want to run at a total loss. Well, let's go live and speak to the content manager of the commodity trading firm Isoko, Francis Dansoe. Now, sir, you heard the minister. From where you sit, is this the lowest we've had to pay for foodstuff in years?
Thank you for the question. In terms of prices, what I can say is that for some of the commodities, the prices have been low in terms of what people are paying. But it being the lowest, I may not entirely agree with him.
Well, he also says that we could possibly be seeing more reductions. Can you predict same?
When you look at the commodities or the crops that we've grown in the country, we can group them into about three. Ones that has a long-term storage, others that have very short-term, and then others that are medium-term. If you look at vegetables, for instance, I mean, prices of vegetables can be cheap within a week, and then the next week go very, very high. And then for the grains, it can be stable for a period and then also start increasing. Let me give you an example. If you take tomatoes, the prices of tomatoes started the year around 344 Ghana cedis, and then dropped to 289.
344 cedis
yes,
a ton?
In January.
What are we using to measure per what?
We are using the crate,
okay.
the crate of tomatoes, and then came to 289. In October, it went to 539, and then it has dropped again to 428. Let's take maize.
Mm-hmm.
Maize began the year at 131 per bag, and then got to 182 per bag in July, and then August it dropped again to 138, and now it's moving up again to 144. And so in terms of prices, the prices we've been having some dips and then some spikes in the prices for.
So now you can tell us for sure if we would see a reduction in prices of commodities on the market.
I said earlier in this month when I spoke to Joy about the fact that if we don't do our things right, yes, there has been some increase in production. But if you don't do our things right, that is post-harvest handling, if we don't do it well, then all the gains that is being said we've made will be eroded, because by next year, early next year, all those things would have gone bad, and then we'll come back to rising food prices again. And so if we've made any gains, we need to make sure that post-handling is done right so that those prices could be maintained, and if possible, reduce the prices. If not, then we are going to see the same cycle that we have lower prices when we harvest, and then a month after, prices begin moving up again.
Finally, Mr. Dunn, so the minister based his claim on the Planting for Food and Jobs program. What would you say this initiative has contributed in terms of pricing of food stuff?
So what I would say is that, yes, indeed, there has been some gains that can be attributed to the Planting for Food. But we can't attribute all the gains to it, because there are other things also happening within the economy and then within the agricultural space that is helping, or also making sure, or even reducing the gains that they are making. And so, yes, we can attribute some of them, but not all, to the Planting for Food.
Thanks for your time. You heard Francis Dansueje, the content manager of the commodity trading firm Isoko. Let's stay a little longer on Agric, because with just 24 hours to the day set aside to acknowledge farmers across the country, the General Agricultural Workers Union says the day does not in any way address the challenges facing the ordinary farmer. According to the General Secretary of the Union, Edward Karowe, there is the need for a review of the celebration to focus on finding long-lasting solutions to the agric sector issues or problems in the agric sector. He's also asking government to stop paying lip services to them.
That we need a comprehensive review of the way we celebrate the Farmers' Day. You know, the annual ritual is said that it does not even inure to the benefit of the farmers. Why? For instance, what benefit will a farmer who gets an award for producing 100 bags of maize, for instance, and thereafter cannot sell that maize? Where is the market? It is only in agriculture that it's very difficult to determine the market in advance. And that is a major concern. And you see government policies that allow the influx of cheap imports into the economy to undermine the market. We should address the challenges that face farmers, rather than thinking that when we have one day to celebrate them and to give awards, then that is enough. So if the minister can come out and complain that he doesn't have enough money for the Farmers' Day celebration, then it tells you that there's a bigger picture about financing agriculture in this country. The questions we need to ask: last year's theme that we had for agriculture, have we been able to fulfill that one? We have not. So you can see that within the over 30 years, we have over 30 different themes. So it becomes an academic job.
You heard General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, Edward Karowe, speaking earlier on the AM show on Multi TV. Let's do some politics now. And General Secretary of the Opposition NDC, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, has been justifying why the party's National Executive Committee, NEC, reduced the controversial filing fees for flag bearer hopefuls from 400,000 to 300,000 cedis. This is happening at a closed-door meeting between the aggrieved aspirants and members of the Council of Elders to officially communicate NEC's decision to them. Already, some aspirants are not excited with the new filing fee and are demanding further reduction. Richard Kwashiga speaks for Joshua Alabi.
100% increment would sound reasonable, but to shoot it as much as 800%, obviously doesn't sit well.
So 300,000, you still think you should go down further?
Well, as an individual, I would have said opted for 100,000. But the Council of Elders, in the wisdom, were looking at a middle ground. They will be meeting the aspirants, and I'm sure that there will be further deliberations. We cannot envisage what will be the outcome. But honestly speaking, as an individual, I would have thought that it should be 100,000. Now, we have heard proponents of the 400,000 Ghana cedis talked about the need to raise funds, monies unavailable to organize the activity, and etc. But would wisdom not tell us that if we organize the flag bearership contest the same way we organized the contest in 2016, that could even lower our costs?
You heard there Richard Kwashiga. He speaks for NDC flag bearer hopeful Joshua Alabi. Let's get on to the phone lines now. Kwesi Paco Wilson has more on this particular issue in the NDC. Kwesi, what more are you gleaning from that meeting between the Council of Elders and the aggrieved aspirants who petitioned them?
Well, Benny, so you recall that the aggrieved aspirants in their petition to the chair of the Council of Elders, Rollins, they indicated that they wanted the nomination forms to be pegged at 5,000 Ghana cedis and also the filing fee slashed to 100,000 cedis. Now, yesterday when the NEC took the decision, the filing fee was 300,000 Ghana cedis and the nomination forms still maintained at the same price, 20,000 Ghana cedis. Some of them have already raised concern. So when the National Council of actually decided to communicate this information. And since they raised concerns, they decided to invite Johnson Aseni Nkete, the General Secretary, to come and explain the rationale or reasons why they slashed the filing fee from 400,000 Ghana cedis to 300,000 Ghana cedis. And so that is what we are learning at the moment, that the aspirants are really not happy because they think that the NEC didn't meet their expectation, and also saying that the filing fees is still on the high, and that they want the money to be slashed.
Okay, Kwesi, we also understand that some of these aspirants will be picking up forms today. Any names we've heard?
Yeah, we picked up information that some of them will be picking up the nomination forms today because there has been an extension today, I should say. Now, because of the meeting, they are still not at the party headquarters. I must say that the executives at the party headquarters have been here since morning around 8:30, 9 a.m., and they are still waiting for the aspirant. But what we are gathering is that because the meeting hasn't ended, they are yet to pick their forms. What we don't know is that if probably the meeting travels to, let's say, 4 or 5 p.m., where they close nomination, whether or not they're going to add another day to the picking of a nomination form, we don't know yet. But, of course, what we do know is that we are just waiting for the aspirant to come to the party headquarters to pick up their nomination form.
Kwesi Parker-Wilson there giving us details of that meeting between the Council of Elders and aspirants or flag bearer hopefuls of the NDC who were not excited about the filing fees. The regent of Dagbon, Kampakuyana Andani Yakubu Abdullahi, has denied what he says are suggestions that he failed to show up for mediation talks in the Dagbon chieftaincy disputes. In a letter written to President Akufo-Addo, the regent accuses the Asantehene Otumfuo Osei Tutu II of rather not availing himself for a meeting. The Asantehene recently presented a report on mediation talks to the president, highlighting some challenges he had to grapple with. My colleague Fifi Kumsin joins me in studio with excerpts of that letter written by the regent of Dagbon to the president. What more does that letter say, Fifi?
So the letter has 4,415 words, filling 14 pages. But let's do some excerpts. It says, the pronouncement of His Majesty Otumfuo before Your Excellency on 21st November exposes clearly the untruths on which the decisions of the mediation committee of the eminent chiefs is based. Their decisions entirely out of tune with the principles of mediation and with Dagbon customs appear to be aimed at achieving an agenda that should not be adopted by Your Excellency, democratic father of all Ghanaians, under the oath you took upon the assumption of office. Your Excellency, the Otumfuo suggestion that I refused to respond to his invitation is also not factual. I actually met him twice at Manshia on 1st February 2015 and 18th July 2017, once at my behest and once at his invitation. A third invitation was sent during the Buyum of Fire Festival in September 2018, when it was inappropriate to leave Yendi. Through his intermediary, he agreed to postpone my visit to a later date. When I followed up later, the first week of October 2018, he indicated that he was traveling to South Africa and would invite me upon his return. I have since not heard from him.
Fifi Kumsin there with extracts of that letter written by the regent of Dagbon to President Akufo-Addo, denying suggestions that he failed to show up for mediation talks in the Dagbon chieftaincy dispute. You're listening to the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM with me, Benis Abubeidu Lansa. Still to come, embattled gold dealership firm Men's Gold Ghana Limited has asked its staff to proceed on leave effective Monday, December 10. And new chairman of the National Media Commission dismisses claims by some old members that his nomination by the president would affect the commission's objectivity.
He makes reference to a text message he received from immediate past NMC chairman. It reads,
I wish you would see my viewpoint and not set the NMC on the slippery slope, and therefore, while I wish you well, I must caution the members not against you, but against the idea you personify.
My name is Kwame Sefakai, and most of you know me as a media personality, but I am also a family man. The UMB mobile banking app, UMB Speed App, saves me so much time by letting me do almost all of my banking transactions on my phone. The cardless withdrawal feature allows me to withdraw cash from any UMB ATM without an ATM card. I can also pay bills, transfer money, request for a loan, invest money, and so much more. So now, I can spend less time at the bank and more time with the ones I love. Bank anywhere and anytime with a UMB mobile banking app, UMB Speed App, and get the time to do what you love most. Download the UMB Speed App from your Android, iOS, or Windows phone today. Call 0302 633 988 for more information. UMB Speed App, Digibank, let's go!
Thanks for staying here on the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM. It's now time to hear what's happening in the world of sports. Ridwan Asante, what's the latest?
Yes, we have to talk some domestic matters, and Kumasi Asante Kotoko are the country's sole representative in this season's CAF Inter-Clubs competitions and will be playing in the Confederation Cup. The Porcupine Warriors start their campaign next week against Kariobangi Sharks FC from Kenya. The worry, however, is that Kotoko haven't played a competitive match since May this year, and that's a huge headache for head coach Siki Akono.
I don't want to go deep into it, but there was a problem. We signed certain players, and when they came to us, we realized that there's a lot of work to be done, and it's not good. This is an appeal to normalization committee to fast track things so that we can have because it's very difficult for even the national coaches. When you invite players, it's a lot of work, and it's not good. It's not the best.
You had CK Akono there on Kumasi Asante Kotoko. That's your sports for lunch. Can I pass a message on to somebody?
Who?
Tell him my microphone.
Thank you. Ridwan Asante there with the latest from the world of sports. And it's now time to bring you updates on that story. We are just receiving. Embattled gold leadership firm Men's Gold Ghana Limited has asked the staff to proceed on leave effective Monday, December 10. My Joy Online editor Jerry Modi joins us with details. What other reasons or what reasons do they give for this decision?
Okay, Benny, the company is saying that they've been receiving threats to their properties and then threat to some of their staff, that some of the people have been receiving threats on their lives, so they decided to take this decision for now. They asked them to return to the company on 20th December, where they would be giving their end of year packages and stuff like that.
Well, we'll be bringing you more details on this. This is a story we are just picking up, and as information trickles in, we'll definitely share them with you. Now, new chairman of the NMC, Yao Bwedu Ayebwafo, has dismissed claims by some old members that being a nominee of the president on the commission could compromise its objectivity. The immediate past director of newspapers at the Graphic Communications Group Limited last Friday beat Benedict Asoro to become the NMC's new chairman. In an article published in today's edition of the Daily Graphic, the NMC chairman says he will safeguard the independence of the commission. There is more in the following report.
Mr. Ayebwafo has previously served as executive secretary of the NMC, proud to becoming the editor of the Daily Graphic newspaper in 2003 and later director of newspapers in 2007. He retired from Graphic in August this year. He is one of 2 persons nominated by the president to join 16 others to make up the commission. After 2 rounds of voting, Mr. Ayebwafo emerged victorious ahead of Benedict Asoro, who was nominated by the Christian group. In an article published on page 7 of the Daily Graphic, the NMC boss alleges that some old members of the NMC did everything to ensure he loses. This, he argues, stemmed from their belief that as a nominee of the president, the independence of the commission risked being compromised. He makes reference to a text message he received from immediate past NMC chairman Kwesi Jana Penton. It reads,
I wish you would see my viewpoint and not set the NMC on the slippery slope, and therefore, while I wish you well, I must caution the members not against you, but against the idea you personify.
Mr. Ayebwafo writes,
Indeed, my argument was that if the media acted with professionalism and responsibility, there will be no cause to fear.
He further states that media owners and practitioners are more likely to be the ones to affect the effectiveness of the NMC and not the president's nominee. He ends by saying,
I need to ensure that the interests and concerns of the NMC are not mortgaged to give meaning and function to the trust and confidence reposed in me by President Akufo-Addo, and prove to those who opposed my election because of who nominated me that I have a mind of my own and know what free, responsible and independent media have for national development and democracy.
That was a News Desk report. Now, the Works and Housing Ministry says it is committed to ensuring that all buildings are disability friendly and is willing to go by the new drafted building code. This was made known after the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations presented a petition for the inclusion of accessibility features in all public infrastructure. Nancy Mefadra-Dosi was at the Works and Housing Ministry and reports.
One after the other, they had to find their way into the ministry's building with a lot of difficulty, considering it is the ministry supposed to ensure that all buildings were accessible to persons with disability. It was found seriously wanting. After about 30 minutes of waiting, the Deputy Minister and Chief Director walked in for proceedings to begin. The spokesperson for the group, Reverend John Meffel, was outraged over the failure of successive governments to seriously monitor and ensure that buildings are disability friendly.
Accessibility for persons with disabilities is a right. The excuses are enough. Action now. Government should show by example and adapt all government buildings immediately so as to have the moral justification to sanction the rest of society that is not complying.
He also had several recommendations for the ministry, which he says they will be monitoring closely.
No bid should be considered on presentation without meeting the accessibility criteria. 3. Ensure sanctions are brought on any contractor who fails to comply with the accessibility provisions of the law.
When he finally got the chance to speak, the Deputy Minister of Works and Housing, Eugene Boakye-Ntwi, first apologized to the Federation for their inability to receive their petitions on Monday.
Yes, I will apologize on behalf of the ministry and our good selves that your visit to this premises on the 3rd was not communicated to us, unfortunately, and you met our absence. We do apologize for that.
He also pledged his ministry's commitment to ensuring that all buildings comply with the building code.
Nancy Mefadra-Dosi with that report. Now, if you have a large acre farm and monitoring and application of farming methods is your nightmare, hear this. With the introduction of locally built drones, you will be able to map out your farm, detect crop diseases, and do real-time monitoring of crop growth. That's not all. For those in the oil and gas sector, inspecting pipelines and other installations just got a rapid boost with these drones. For Tech Thursday today, we highlight the drone technology and how it can make life easier for many sector players in the Ghanaian economy.
And now the weather. The drones, according to manufacturers SKT Aeroshutter, can simplify work in various fields.
We have a unique opportunity here where drone technology just came and we can take advantage of it. We want to make sure that more of the youth get engrossed in this technology, which can transform the continent.
In an open field of the Achimota school, engineers are test flying the drones. 2 people operate the monitor, another set is gauging the humidity and temperature levels. And not far from where I stand, an erect pole has a red sack which shows the direction of the wind. All these are in preparation for the drones to fly. Before long, the drones are set in motion and with a little push, they fly high in the sky. These drones have multiple purposes. In agriculture, large swathes of farm fields can be monitored. Crop diseases can be detected through the use of drones with specially fitted devices and cameras. Managing Director of SKT Aeroshutter, Derek Annan, says the technology is built to enhance the work of farmers.
Let's say 10,000, 5,000 acres. It's very, very difficult to actually track the progress, or maybe you want to see a problem at a particular sector. Right? Assume you have 5,000 acres, you have to walk through the whole place. You then identify a problem sector. But with the drones, you can easily deploy the drone and then it will go there to show that this is where the problem is.
Agric extension officers can also deploy the drone technology to map farm fields and carry out monitoring and inspection. The oil and gas sector is said to be one of the beneficiaries of the drone technology. CEO of SKT Aeroshutter, Francis Owusu, believes can be harnessed to prevent invasion of a country's oil and gas infrastructure.
In oil and gas, we can inspect the pipelines, everything that was done conventionally by human with high risk and cost. We believe with drones, we can bring it much cheaper and much safer.
These drones have the capacity of carrying monitoring and inspection equipment of up to 4 kilos, which include infrared devices, lasers, and other high-definition cameras. Engineer Ugo has been explaining.
The fixed-wing aircraft is an airplane-like aircraft. It's designed for long missions, long endurance missions. We can do more than 1 hour flight with different payloads like infrared cameras, multispectral cameras, RGB cameras. We fly longer with longer endurance and longer range.
Kamala Dum with today's edition of Tech Thursday. Mapito Sibidi has joined me with what's trending.
Well, in our Ghana trends, the English Premier League is dominating. Chelsea's trending, Arsenal's trending, Liverpool's also trending, and Old Trafford is also trending. So you can go to our Twitter page, Joy 99.7 FM, to see everything that's trending.
Thank you, Mapito Sibidi there. And this has been the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM. Top story: Agriculture Minister declares food prices have hit record low, a feat he attributes to the NPP government's Planting for Food and Jobs program. But we heard from some market women who disagree with his claim. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I am Benis Abubeidulansa. Enjoy the rest of you.